You could start out with making yourself floss more often or doing things that are drinking more water. You don't want to go for the big guns because you're probably going to set yourself up to fail. And then if you do, then you're just going to believe all those terrible things about yourself even more. Like, oh, well, see, I can't do this. I was born to fail. I wasn't born to succeed. I'm this, I'm that. These stories that we tell ourselves all the time. So really that is what the first levels are. And then as you learn to be a certified hypnotherapist and you do the work that the hypnopotential work, what this work does is once you get past the critical factor of the mind and you get a person to the state that they can actually, it's called an abreaction. You take a person to the submerged material in their subconscious mind and they will relive it. Some people literally feel like they're a child again. Some people just kind of see it. Some people just remember it. It's different in everybody. Carmen, get down. Come on, get down. Diane is not in love with you, okay? Like everybody else. You think everybody's in love with you, okay? All right, so, sorry, she just seems to like you a lot, I don't know. She wants to win you over. That's what, she wants to turn you into a dog person. I think that's what it is. All right, so once you get to that state. Are you a cat person? Oh, you are, because she's actually more of a cat than she is the dog, so she's probably trying to convince you of that. Yeah, she probably smells your cats. Once you get in there, you can find out what the person told themselves about themselves or life or the world, and you can change it. That's how powerful it is. And once you change it, you change the environment of the subconscious mind. And that is the power of regression, is being able to actually get in there and take these negatives and either neutralizing them or converting them to positives. Because there's really never anything that we went through or that happened to us that wasn't really ultimately designed to make us stronger. And most of us feel victimized because we just haven't been able to figure that out. We don't really quite understand why we feel the way that we feel. So some people might go back to something that they remember consciously, and some people go back to things that they don't even remember consciously. Like I had one of my patients years ago, he had almost an aversion to learning, and he remembered that he had been slapped by a teacher and that really traumatized him. And when we went back and relived that experience, he had said some pretty nasty things to the teacher. And the teacher should not have, but this was in Latin America or something, should not have slapped him, but it helped him to understand that he was a co-creator and not a victim. And so that changes the environment, and so one lives differently. So does this make a lot of sense to you? Okay, it gets a lot worse, okay? We're gonna go on to other levels of the mind, and you're gonna see really how messed up this gets. All right, so now, let me see if my green pen works. All right, so we've discussed now we've discussed 3 different levels of the mind. We discussed the primitive mind, which is the autonomic nervous system and all the impulses and instincts. We've discussed our programming, which is in the subconscious mind. Some of it comes, like we're being programmed, and some of it is through our own interpretation of experience. We've discussed the critical factor and the conscious mind, but there are other levels of the mind that we're going to discuss today. The next level of the mind is called the extra-conscious mind. And this is a mind that doesn't necessarily exist within the boundaries of our 3-dimensional body. So even science now is starting to recognize that it's not necessarily the Newtonian model of physics that matter and energy do not intersect or affect one another. They're starting to understand even things like Kirlian photography that can measure. We understand that there are auras, that there are energy fields. So this is really kind of like your energy field, your aura, your sixth sense, your extra conscious mind. It exists beyond the boundaries of your skin. And so for instance, if you go to a party, let's say Diane goes to a party and she gets in there and she's like, I don't know, just I don't like the energy here, right? Which of your 5 senses are designed to feel energy? None of them, really, if you think about it. Even feeling, it requires some sort of a tactile thing against your nerves. So what is it, when you think about somebody and they call you, there's something that goes on that is beyond our five senses. So this part of the mind is really taking in information. So Diane's at the party, the dog's left, but she's decided that she's getting this, she's picking up these vibes, okay? And it is going to go to her central command, which is where we make our decisions through the central command of our conscious mind, and she makes a decision. Do I stay or do I go? It's not the extra conscious mind that makes a decision, but she makes a decision. So as we go through life, what happens though with this absorbing and reflecting is that we, almost from an early age, we stop really taking responsibility for our lives. We feel victimized by life. And so what happens is that this way of absorbing and reflecting from the outer world kind of turns inside out, so that this aura, or this extra conscious mind, can also absorb from the inside and reflect to us. And so what happens is, all of a sudden, this very clear, this is why children are so very psychic, because they have a very clear extra conscious mind, very clear channels. And most of us reach a point in life, something spooks us out in life, and kind of the dynamic changes where it starts to absorb what's in our mind, what's in the subconscious mind. The majority of our mind, as we know, almost 90% is in the subconscious mind. So all of a sudden, this field that surrounds us becomes filled with all of this programming that we got from our parents or significant people. And suddenly, we are being bombarded by a constant sense of, you're bad, you'll never be good enough, it's your fault, you can't do that, oh, you're a girl, you can't do that. All the different things that were part of your upbringing begin to surround you. And so you're not only just getting this deep wellspring of negativity, but you're getting it all around you and surrounding you. And so even how you perceive the world, even how things come into the world, are going to have to go through this filter. So if I were going to take a Frisbee and throw it through a swamp, and it comes out the other side with all this muck on it. So sometimes, for instance, so let's say I were to say to Dawn, I don't know, honey, I don't like that color, I don't like that blouse on you. Now, Dawn and I are like best friends, and so she would probably say, well, I really like LG's taste, and maybe she's right. Maybe this isn't the right blouse for me, or she might think, whatever, LG's is having a bad day, I'm not going to pay attention. But what if Dawn grew up with a mother that was very hypercritical of her, and always told her she wasn't good enough, and that she wasn't pretty enough, and that she couldn't dress well, and that nobody would ever love her because of, or that's a good one in here too, is unlovable. And by the time it gets through here, she's like, LJ hates me. She thinks I have no taste. I'm going to get up and leave. I don't like LJ anymore. You see how it works? So do you see that very often, have you ever found yourself overreacting, or somebody overreacting? Because by the time it gets through these filters, see what I mean, that it gets a lot worse? Wait, by the time it gets through the filters and we get it on the other end, we're making reactions to something that perhaps is not even there. It's, for instance, let's say, okay, Sherry just had a birthday. So let's say for her next birthday, I wanted to buy her a gift of a minor bird or a parrot. And let's say I had just a very bad sense of humor, and I wanted to just mess with her. And so I started teaching this parrot to say, you're not good enough. You can't do that. You're terrible. And you get the parrot, and it's sitting in your room telling you those things. Would you believe what it says?
I hope not.
But you know what? Well, we all believe the parrot, okay? We all believe the parrot, because that's what is absorbed into your extra conscious mind. And let's really analyze this. Let's analyze this. Who here today is really the person that you were at 12 years old? You have grown up, you have matured, you have learned, you have made accomplishments, you have raised families, you have done things in the world, you have contributed things to the world. You're not that bad girl. Okay, so really a lot of the things that our extra conscious are telling us, remember, there is no logic in the extra conscious mind. It's just a two-way mirror. All it is reflecting stuff to you that really have nothing to do with who you are today. And let's think of some of the things. Okay, how many of you are parents here? Okay, a lot of you are parents. How often have you just been tired and said something to your kids and you regret it afterwards, but you're tired? You know, you might say, oh, you're just so bad, or you make me crazy. But you see, you didn't really mean that you wanted them in 20 years to have to go and have therapy with LJ. You know, you did it because you're tired and because there's a lot of responsibilities to growing up and being a parent. And so a lot of the stuff that's floating around has nothing to do with who you really are today. But yet you are perceiving the world and reacting to a world that is tainted. It's smog that surrounds you all the time. And this is what happens. So this is where, again, the power of the regression, you know, the act of absorption and reflection, like, you know, if I'm spraying or my essential oils, or if I spray some of that spray I gave you yesterday, it's not going to be around in a few hours. You know, it's got to be, you've got to constantly do it. And that's the same thing. It keeps absorbing and reflecting. So if you change the environment and you change the dynamics, isn't this going to kind of clear out some of what's in here? That's the other power of regression.